So yes, um, let me start by please giving you some time to think about these three questions. I know I am truly myself when dot dot dot. I last felt like my true self when dot dot dot. The last time I really gave myself some me time was dot dot dot. So let that just stay with you for a moment and think about it maybe um, for a few minutes. And so this talk is really about living with authenticity, intentionality, and full joy. Because can you imagine just living your life like you're sleepwalking? You're just going with the flow and just letting things happen, not really knowing why you're there, whether it actually means if you're doing what you really want to do, or you're just doing something because it's something that somebody else wants you to do, or it just so happened that I happened to be in this place and I don't. It wasn't because I really wanted to be there. Um, so the idea of this talk is really just to not to tell you how to do it, but just plant the seed on whether you are living with authenticity or whether you are living intentionally the way you really want to spend your time on, and also with full joy and not living in fear or uh, living because you're required to do something, but because you really want to do something. It makes you happy to do something or to be someone, to be yourself. So this is really what I would like to just spend some time to talk about with you. So uh, the first step is really knowing thyself, knowing ourselves, um, and not just the good, but also the bad and the ugly. There are things about ourselves that we know. There are things about ourselves that others know, but we also want to include things that we don't know or don't want to know about ourselves. And we also want to know about our blind spots. And these are areas of ourselves that we don't see or even don't want to see. And obviously, there's probably a reason why we don't see it because they make us really uncomfortable. But but these things that make us uncomfortable actually hold us back from really doing what we want to do or being who we really want to be. And these show up during moments of change in our lives and through difficult conversations. So a second part of this time together is just to talk about the uncomfortable. But the idea is not to get rid of the uncomfortable because we're always going to be uncomfortable. It's just that's how life is. There are uncomfortable situations. And so the idea is to just be comfortable during the uncomfortable. And most of the time it's things like things we're afraid of. Negative emotions make us comfortable. Negative emotions, things that trigger us. And all of those things that make us uncomfortable put a lot of negative self-talk right here in our head. And because of that negative self-talk, it gives all that unnecessary stress that we don't really need. Um, and of course, because it's unnecessary stress, it entails a lot of energy that we could be using for something else. We could be using for things that we really want to do instead of things that stress us. So what we really want to happen is to be okay with what is, to be free of what we don't what don't serve us, and to reserve all that energy that we spend for negative unnecessary stress and negative self-talk for going what we really want. Um, because if we don't, we I guess it's true what they say, what we resist persists. So the more we try to get rid of all that or not think about the uncomfortable, the more it comes back and the more energy we spend on it. And what we really want to do is just accept what is, get rid of that, get rid of what we don't need, really. Use that energy to go for what we really want. So the first question I'd like to ask is, who am I really? Who are you really? What do I really want in my life? And there are three questions that John Maxwell, first person who ever taught me about leadership or who I ever read about leadership, was with these three questions. What do I cry about? What do I sing about? What do I dream about? When I these are questions that sort of like, I guess what I cry about, it's sort of a reflection of what makes us unhappy. What do I sing about? These are, for example, for me, when I think about what do I cry about, I cry when I know my daughter's in trouble, when my family, there's something my family gets sick. So it just shows that for me, my family is important to me. And if something bad happens to them, it makes me sad. What do I sing about? I find that when I sing, it's because for example, if I go to church, so and I when church hymns make me feel really, they make me sing, and also I also like to sing when I want to feel joy, when I need a pickup moment. Sometimes there are times during the day when like you're so bored and you're exhausted, or you're so down, and I sing about things that make me happy, things that pick up my energy, things that help me remember that I'm alive. What do I dream about? Of course, I dream about, I don't know, traveling places that I've never been, or I don't know, being free of anything, of not just having the
I
life
didn't
I.
get that. Could you
Oh,
try again?
oh, sorry, that's my computer. Apologies. Yeah. So what do
It's
I
all
dream
good.
about? Sorry about that. Um, yeah, what do I dream about? What do I cry about? What do I sing about? What do I dream about? But there are also other questions like, what makes me happy? What gives my life meaning? What challenges or makes me curious? Now, this last bit, sometimes when everything's all hunky dory, when it's too nice, you get bored, right? Because it's no challenge, there's no excitement. Sometimes it's nice to just be challenged about something, to be curious. And sometimes, and I even somebody said, I don't know if it's Maxwell or somebody else, some leadership guru says that the day we stop learning or the day we stop being curious, this is the day we stop leading, or the day we stop living, because you're no longer questioning things. You're just like, you know, living passively, or just not really getting excited about anything. So these are good questions to ask. We sometimes don't even want to ask sometimes. So, and here's really what's most important. What's that we don't often ask ourselves because we're so busy, and because we always equate busyness with productivity. Oh, I'm important, so I need to be busy. So instead of actually being still and being reflective about what's really important about our lives, we're always doing something. We're always going somewhere. We're always being busy. So what are my values? What do I cherish most of all? What are my goals in the short term or in the long term? And here's the clicker. Here's there's the most important thing. For these things that are important to us, do I spend time and attention on them? Because where my attention goes is where my energy flows. I mean, I tell myself, oh, I love my family, but most of the time I'm in front of my computer. I love my daughter, but I'm always like thinking of what I need to do tomorrow for my presentation or this. So do I really spend, because I learned in my yoga classes that love is actually time and attention. It's not money. It's not showering people with gifts. It's what do you spend your time and attention on? And that's what's going to give you an indication of what it is that you really value in your life. Um, what's really what's really important to you. So sometimes it's very hard for us to answer that question because, we're rationalizing. I say I love my family, but I spend a lot of time at work. I go home really like 9 o'clock in the evening. I just can't let go of this project. But really, if I love my family so much, why am I not home already for dinner? That sort of thing. So those kinds of questions are important. So here's part of the good things is sometimes we don't take the time to also find our talents or our treasures. What are my strengths? I took this strengths profile assessment, and there they distinguish between realized strengths and unrealized strengths. I didn't really know what those meant, but I realized that there are a lot of things that I did not realize. Strengths that I was good at. I knew I was good in math, I was good in organizing and supervising, all that stuff, but I didn't realize that an unrealized strength of mine was also relating to people, connecting them, bring them together, or understanding, empathy, and all that, all my soft skills for leadership and all that. I didn't know all that until I actually took the time, took an assessment. Well, you don't really need to do an assessment, but taking the time to find that out. was something that I had the sense to do. So it's our responsibility to find that out. When was the last time I felt invigorated or alive while doing something really well? What is my superpower? Often we don't know what our superpowers are. Was I when I was growing up, my mom said, okay, when it was time for me to pick my university, she said, okay, you're going to take statistics. At 15, you don't really know what you want to do. But my mom said, okay, that's the way for you to get a job. You learn statistics and you get a job in the government, then that's it. You're done. You'll be happy. But so I was an obedient daughter. I did that. And so for 30 years, I worked as a statistician. But and then it was only towards the latter part, the last in maybe the last 10 years of my career where I realized, you know what, I'm not just good in numbers. I'm good at it, but it doesn't really excite me. It doesn't, I'm not passionate about it. It was only recently that I figured that I was actually good with people. So I got into leadership, and then I got into other things that were people centric. And then I realized that my superpower was bringing people together, especially about a cause that nobody ever wanted to do because it was very difficult. And I figured, oh, that's what I want to do because that's really what I'm good at, really. So why is it important to do that? Why is it important to understand that? Because I didn't think this was true, but when I was learning about leadership, I saw this quote and I really thought, wow, I didn't think that was true. Your greatest growth is in your area of giftedness. So if you don't know where you're gifted, what area of giftedness you're in, you won't be able to grow as much as you can. And he says, so you need to find out what that is. And that's the area where you can really stretch yourself and really evolve as a person. Most of the time when we're at work, your boss says, oh, you're really weak at this. So go get a course, write about this. Because for me, my writing was terrible, was my weakness. It's torture for me. So I would spend time taking a writing course and all, and then I get all frustrated because I've never do it really well or whatever. Or I did it well, but really I wasn't really passionate or motivated by it. But when I discovered about the people side, that's when I said, oh, maybe if I took this course, that would be really interesting. And when I took that course, oh, if I go one more level, I'll even be better. Then I kept on just going up and up. Then finally I reached this area where I became a coach. I completely evolved into somebody new. So the question is, are we using our strengths? What use is what use is knowing about your strengths when you're not really in a position um, to use them? It's like if you're in a basketball team, if you're good in doing 3-point shots, what good is it if the coach always puts you as a guard and not somebody who's there to do those very long, far away shots? So you need to find a way to find that place in your team where you can use your greatest strength. And if you are a supervisor, it's good for you to know what the strengths of your people are so that you can position them so that they can use their strengths for the good of the team. Laura, you asked the question, what strength assessment did you do? My favorite is strength profiles. And that's where I got my realized and unrealized. I also did the VIA, the values assessment, which I think is good because it also showed a different side of me. I think there are many assessments that are out in the market, but um, for me, for work, my favorite is the DISC one, and also my favorite is the strength profiles one. Um,
Thank you.
for for life, I think the VIA is value. I think what's it called? Values, something values, VIA. I think that's enough,
Psychology one from Martin Seligman. Yeah, I love that.
right? That gives you a good picture of who you are as a human being, I think. Um, so so now let's go to the uncomfortable part. What might be holding me back to getting what I really want right now? And usually these are the following are create our worldview today, our fears, our assumptions, our limiting beliefs, our shoulds, our need to, underlying needs, yearnings. A lot of those say, those are the ones that help us shape how we see our world, how we see our external environment. And And a lot of those really hold us back to really what we want to do. Fear. I was always afraid of um, speaking too much because you know or fearing left behind or being being when I grew up in a developing economy, and opportunities are very they're not very much opportunities only go to the people who have a lot of money or people who are really extremely connected. So you're always afraid to that was always my fear, to not be able to get a good job or not be able to get good opportunities like everybody else. Assumptions, things like I don't know if you're yeah, there for me, if for me, my I always don't like. Well, it's a personal assumption, but for me, it was about if you're not, if you don't speak up, you'll never get what you want. But if you speak up too much, you'll also be branded as somebody who's, if you're, especially if you're a woman, you'll always be branded by somebody who's too aggressive, or you won't be a you're not an effective leader if you're too much of an extrovert. So, and then there's limiting beliefs. I always thought that I'm never going to be a good leader. Those kinds of things. I should be able to. I should be able to do this. I need to do this instead of I want to do this. And then the underlying need to please people, to be acknowledged, to be liked, to I don't know. For me, yeah, to belong, to always to be part of a group instead of actually be your own person. And then yearnings too. We all have that. Um, and these five, and this one I got from Marsha Reynolds in one of her courses. We don't know it. They're very unconscious. They're at the back of our brains, but we don't know it. But a lot of that shapes our worldview today. So the question is, do these whatever beliefs that we're holding that that hold us back to, are they actually do they still make sense? Some of them we've gotten since we were children, um, or from a very traumatic experience. We hold on to them. They keep us safe. Are they necessary still? Are they effective? Do they actually keep us? Do they actually let us have the opportunities we want in the end? So part of being uncomfortable is also identifying, facing, and conquering our fears. And most of the time, and some of you may be coaches, and maybe you know about these: failure, being wrong, not being good enough, imposter syndrome, being judged, not being in control, being alone, left behind, hurt, rejected, not accepted, embarrassed, guilty, fear of dying. And I don't mean physical. It means dying inside, like it's like you're not alive, that you're dead really, like because you're just like the rug. You're not, nobody notices you, nobody hears you, you're just like something part of the furniture, not heard, you don't matter. So those kinds of things. Um, these hold us back from actually getting what we really want. So, and then there's also what really triggers us. And so I came across a book from a course called, and they say about the scarf model. So they say that what really triggers us sometimes are five things: status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Status, for example. Status means, how do people perceive me? I need to be perceived as somebody who's a good leader, somebody who's cool, somebody who's um, inspiring, or somebody who's just people want to emulate. I don't want to come across as weak. That's important to me. I want people to know that I'm always in a good state. Certainty. When I was moving from Switzerland to America, I needed my visa. And of course, to get my green card took a long time, and there, of course, you never know when you're going to get it. So this not knowing just created so much stress that I was like, it's this idea of not knowing things. It's just it gets the better of you, and you get all really grumpy and nervous, and you're and afraid because you're and not functional at all. So not knowing what will happen is something that bothers a lot of people, and you get triggered. autonomy. I really hated it when my boss says, no, you don't make a decision unless I say so. So everything that I had to, every idea that I had to, that I came up with, I had to get permission from my boss. And that really bothered me. Why is it that I'm a senior officer? Why is it that I have to get the director's permission to implement um, an idea, a program? That really bothered me. So I have to have some kind of autonomy to feel that I make a, that I'm worth it, that I'm a good manager, that I have good ideas. I don't need anybody's permission. Relatedness, it means being part of a group, being included. I don't like it when um um oh, everybody's part of this group, but I'm not. So why don't you that annoys me when I know that I could be part of a group, but they're not including me, and that annoys me because that means I'm not good enough to be part of their group. I'm not part of this exclusive group, and it bothers me when I'm not belonging to a group that I should be belonging. And of course, there's fairness. I always get annoyed when I know there's a friend of mine or an employee of mine who is being treated unfairly. That really triggers me to the point that I can't shake it. I really have to say something. And sometimes it's not good for me because I'm too affected because it's this idea of people who are being taken advantage of, and that triggers me. So I just have to say something. So what happens when we're afraid or when we're triggered? So basically, what from when we're triggered, our nervous system comes into a defensive state. Basically, our amygdala, which is part of our limbic brain, which is the older part of our brain, it's that part of the brain that says, alarm, alarm, you're being under attack. A tiger is coming to come and get you. And then it takes a while before those signals to go to the newer part of the brain, which is what they call the prefrontal cortex, to 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 be rational about it. So when we're attacked, we have that fight or flight response, and it takes a few seconds before it goes to the that part of the brain that analyzes things that can put it into words. So that's what happens when we're afraid, when we're triggered. So the body goes, "Ooh," and then we sometimes resort to a knee-jerk reaction. So how do we manage our emotional triggers or our fears? So obviously, we don't want to let our amygdala do the talking. What we need is to re-empower that prefrontal cortex to come up with a rational response to the trigger. But it takes a few seconds. So, but Viktor Frankl from that book, I forget the name of his book, but he said between stimulus and response is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So, 5 steps to deal with emotional triggers. First, stop, breathe, notice, reflect, respond. I know it's easy to say, but difficult to do. Difficult to remember, just to stop sometimes, because the amygdala just immediately wants us to just do that knee-jerk reaction and say, "Whoa," instead of just say, "Whoa, stop, take a breath, notice what's going on, my body, wherever. Why am I annoyed?" Reflect, then respond. So labeling the emotion also, so we can name it, so you can tame it. And of course, when we're triggered or when we're afraid, our bodies experience this discomfort or stress, which actually is really not necessary because stress is actually important, but it's good only when we're really attacked, when we're physically endangered. But most of the time, it's just these fears that are often perceived, not really real. So in managing this discomfort or stress, our vagus nerve is the key. And what is that vagus nerve? Our nerve is that very long nerve that goes from the bottom of the cervix all the way up to the eyes. And this wandering nerve is attached to all our internal organs. And so what happens is when our I'm sorry, this is when we're stressed, our vagus nerve contracts and all our organs tighten, and we switch to emergency use. And that's where we go into fight, flight, freeze, faint, fold, or fawn. So, and most of the time, we're constantly stressed and we're constantly anxious or we're constantly afraid. So, because of that, it leads to emotional or physical issues like migraines, heart attack, panic attacks, depression. And we're not meant to be constantly stressed. We're supposed to be stressed when we're really afraid, when there's real danger, and then stop, you know. But most of the time they all accumulate and we're constantly in anxious in anxiety. So we get blocked. So to manage unnecessary stress, we really need to activate parasympathetic system. So what does that mean? When we're stressed, our sympathetic nervous system gets activated. And that's where all these stress hormones come up: adrenaline, cortisol, testosterone. Adrenaline is that hormone that makes us go fight or flight. Cortisol, I guess, is when we're like stressed, we're feeling attacked. Testosterone is that power hormone. Like we get angry because we're being threatened. It's the hormone that they say the power, yeah, the hormone of power. We want to fight because of the attack. But what we want to do is to be relaxed and activate the parasympathetic system where all the good hormones come out, like serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin. Serotonin is that calm hormone that's actually produced by our intestines. It's 95% um, produced by our intestines. So, and usually, I don't know if you notice when you're upset or when something uncomfortable is happening, our gut gets all weird, and the intestine is like, you know, all our digestive organs are just in creating havoc. So, what we want is to have that serotonin there. We want to facilitate peristalsis where the intestine is constantly moving. And when the intestine is constantly moving, serotonin gets produced. And then dopamine is that hormone, that feel-good hormone, that happy hormone. So you get dopamine, for example, when you're eating chocolate. Or like a colleague of mine used to say, "Oh, sushi makes me happy." So when she does the things that make her happy, that's when you get this dopamine hormone. Or when you listen to music that gives you dopamine because it lifts you up, it picks you up. Endorphin is the hormone when you, after exerting a lot of pressure, so a lot of effort. So when you do like planks or an exercise for like a minute, and then when you rest, you get this nice relief. This release, all the endorphins are coming out because you just exerted a lot of effort because of exercise. And oxytocin, of course, is that trust hormone. It's that feeling when you feel really safe. It's like the feeling of a baby when they're breastfeeding for mommy. So it's that kind of trust. And it's hopefully you get that hormone when you're in a team, the trust. When there's trust in the team, there's a lot of oxytocin flowing. And hopefully that's what's happening. So so we practice self-care and self-compassion for our bodies, conscious breaths. We exhale longer than we inhale. When we do conscious breaths, we pause. It pauses the chattering mind. It lowers the heart rate. And when we stretch and move, we activate the parasympathetic system. We need to do breaks every 45 minutes. We need to stand up and stretch. Our biggest organ, I think they found out, was called the fascia. Just the beginning of our session, we did this thing. And the fascia, they said, is that connective tissue that wraps all our muscles. So when we stretch that fascia, we all it that the vagus nerve gets relaxed, and so that's why we need to stretch. It relaxes us. It activates that parasympathetic system. Sleep, especially for women of a certain age, that's really 8 hours of sleep is like really what I want for Christmas. Nothing, not getting there, not getting the sleep that I want. These days, I only go 6, 7 hours, and if I'm lucky, 7 hours, half and 30 minutes. But 8 hours, that's really gold. Very rare. Pause, deep rest, 5-minute breaks in between meetings, deep learning. And they also find out that, it's when you take a break, it's good for learning because you need all that information you download in your brain. The brain needs time to encode whatever it is that you download. So the pause, like even if it's 5 minutes, is good. So breathing, just to go short, very fast, breathing, research says that there really is evidence that says that breathing is the only thing that makes your heart rate go slower. It gives that chattering mind break. When you're focusing on your breath, your mind goes somewhere else. It doesn't go to stay there. Oh, whatever. You go to your fingers, you go to your breath, you see your belly go out as you inhale, and your belly goes towards the spine as you exhale. So you literally go to your physical sensations when you take a breath because you do it. So It activates the prefrontal cortex and it reduces stress, negative emotions, worries. So really, what we want to do is conscious breathing, long, deep breaths whenever we can. Of course, we breathe, right? But they're not really conscious. And by conscious meaning, you really accompany your breath. You can see that your belly goes out when you inhale and your belly goes towards the spine as you exhale. Or you do a cannon breath, like a ah. You're really like you're paying attention to what's happening in the body. Um, and obviously we need to take the time to do that. We need to be mindful of saying, okay, stop, I'm gonna do a conscious breath. Self-created sounds I found out too is good. Humming, chanting, whistling, singing. I don't know if you want to try it. Um, so let's do it. So I invite you to just do it in your own, wherever you are, and just close your eyes and just take a breath and just hum. And make sure you hear the vibration here in the front. Mm. Listen to your voice. See your voice is an extension of your soul. Just feel that vibration here in your front part of your head, because all of those connect. They have receptors there, and it goes all the way to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is that gland that produces melatonin. So it calms us, allows us to sleep. So I'll give you a few seconds to just do that on your own. Or you can also chat or whistle or sing if you want. So when you're ready, just to let you know that it's been proven that these self-created sounds give a lot of benefits. So blood pressure, heart rate are lower, levels of stress rate hormones are lower, and you get all these good things: oxytocin, endorphins, oxygen, melatonin, lymphatic circulation, nitric oxide. These are all good things that come out of these self-created sounds. So try to find a way to find that in your normal day. And they're free actually too, right? They don't need you don't need to go to a gym to do that. You just need a quiet place or a place to yourself to just do that. So leads to stress reduction, um, less reactive hearts, minds, and spirit, enhanced sleep. Speaking of sleep, sleep is important. And what happens when we don't sleep well? So science says that resilience or cognitive performance really goes down by 25% just by missing an hour of sleep for 5 days. Can you imagine? Um, so actually, science also says that deep sleep, which usually happens at the beginning of the night, is good for physical regeneration. So all that waste removal, high risk of, if you don't sleep as much, high risk of obesity, cancer, elevated blood pressure, weaker immune system, and all that. So the deep sleep part is good for the body. But the REM part, which is mostly at the end of the night, is for the mind, mental regeneration, lower impulse control, lower mood, reduction of that. If you don't have much REM sleep, this is what happened. So REM is also good for memory and learning. So the more you have REM sleep, um, the better. Finally the brain. A while ago we talked about our body. Now our brain. Our brain is actually it's a good tool for us to deal with external environments, but it can also actually will be our worst enemy. So we need to control our brain and don't let the brain control you. Be ready. When we have all that negative self-talk, we need to be ready with our secure bases. In my secure bases, I mean, think of a person or an object or a dream or a goal or a memory or purpose or anything that takes you to your happy place. So you can will it when you need it. I get really upset sometimes about certain things. So I remember, for example, I don't know, I think about this video that makes me, joyful. I think of this song that we sang sometime in, I think in our wedding. And then so I think about that. It picks me up. And then when all that negative, when you're doing something, set yourself up for success. When I did this leadership course, at the end of the course, we came up with a statement that says, I am at my best when I. So when I thought about that, I said to myself, so when am I really at my best? So I found out that I'm at my best when I have a supervisor who has my back. My husband lifts me up. When I have people around me who lift me up. When I have enough, when I'm not feeling afraid, when I'm not stressed, when I have my morning practice, like when I actually do it, I feel that my days are so much more, it sets the tone of my day. So when I do my morning practice, I'm tip top. It's the day that I want. I'm not reactive. I can handle it. Even though I'm stressed, I can handle it when I do my morning practice. So find that find that best scenario for you. When are you at your best? Determine that for yourself because everybody is different. Be in the here and now. Notice and be curious. Where in my body? When I'm afraid or when I'm triggered, what happens? For me, I realize that when I'm afraid, my heart just goes. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So what do I do? If my body tells me that, it's because everybody says, oh, it's in your gut. But for me, I always thought that I never really felt anything in my gut. For me, it was always my heart. So and I finally noticed it. I said, oh, okay. So that means I'm bothered. So notice your beta, my behavior, my emotions, my thoughts, my actions. Stop, look, listen. What's really going on? What made me think what I just thought? Then finally, what is that telling me? What am I learning? Am I triggered? Is it because this person finally came into the scenario that really annoyed me? Those kinds of things. So you're noticing how you're reacting. So finally, what's within my control? What can I do? What will I do? Alas, this is something that we never, or it's easy to say and difficult to do, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others. I mean, we all make mistakes. I mean, who doesn't, right? But it's very hard to do. It's very hard to forgive ourselves. We make a mistake and we just like, ah, we just, we're constantly punishing ourselves for something that happened 20 years ago. Let it go, let it go. That's also something that we have a difficult time doing. Um, and also worrying about it won't add a second to your life. So it's all right, Laurie. It'll be recorded. Thank you for coming. Um, yeah, let it go. And finally, meditation. There's science that biomedical research that really says that meditation alters our brain structures for self-regulation. Um, it they say that by self-regulation, it means we're able to not just we're able to train ourselves to notice our emotions and our thoughts and to notice them, observe them, and then react and respond. We're able to do that. So basically, it supports the statement that we are not our thoughts and we are not our emotions because we have the power to separate ourselves from our thoughts or our emotions and respond to them. So meditation goes a long way as well. So finally, I wanted to say just pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, according to Buddha. We don't really need to suffer if we really don't want to. Even if nothing changes, if I change, everything changes. I mean, you can't control what's out there, right? I mean, you can't control other people, but what you can control is how you think, how you behave, how you feel. Just do what's within your control. So we have a choice. So to not act is also a choice. So we need to lead our life. Otherwise, we let life lead us. So it's our responsibility to do that for ourselves. And I always like this thing from about Dolly Parton. I know she's a little bit of a vain person, but I just like what she says, find out who you are and do it on purpose. Because who else is going to do it for you except you, right? I mean, it's not going to be your friends because they have their own. their own selves to take care of. So, so to close the sacred space, I wanted to just try a short meditation with you. It's called Kirtan Kriya. It's a science-based meditation. So, and we're going to do a mantra that's it's called Sa Ta Na Ma. So when we say Sa, we put our index and our thumb together, and Ta, we put our middle finger and thumb together, and Na, the ring finger and the thumb, and then Ma, the rebirth. It so Sa is birth, then Ta life, Na is death and rebirth. So each time we say the syllables, we go Sa Ta Na Ma, Sa Ta Na Ma. We say that in three different modes: one in active voice, one in whisper voice, and one in silence. So this mantra really how life is. You're born, you live, you die, and then you're reborn, right? So it's like change. The constant thing in life is change. You do something, you enjoy it, you try to do it, then suddenly it something happens. You need to get away from it. You need to be disconnected from it, and then you start again. You're reborn, rebirth. So you go back. So it's really a reflection of how life is, and it helps us to to just accept that change is part of life and that just need to move on. So would you like to do that with me? So we'll do 1 minute this in active voice, sa, ta, na, ma. And then we switch to whisper, sa, ta. And then we switch to silence for a minute. And then we do another minute. We turn it around, another minute of sa, ta, na, ma, mentally, but quiet. And then we go back to whisper again. And then we go back to the active voice. Sa, ta, nam. I'll guide you, but I hope that you do this with me if you're comfortable. So feel free to close your eyes if you want. So the idea is to do this. So make sure that your back is straight. Your fingers are your fingers are touching, right? And you can close your eyes and focus your eyes on the center of your eyebrows. And then we'll start with a deep inhale, and then we're going to do it. Okay, it's a very powerful Kriya meditation. So, and they do this for Alzheimer's patients also. It's good for memory and emotional clarity and mental clarity if you do it for 40 days, for example. Okay, let's try it. So let's do an inhale, exhale, and let's do an inhale again to start. Sa, ta, na, ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma. Focus in the eyebrows, center of the eyebrows. Na, ma, sa, ta, 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 na, ma. Now whisper. Sa, ta, na, sa. Like you're talking to your soul. Sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, sa. Now in silence, mentally chant. Another minute. Back to whisper. So, so. Now active voice. Sa, ta, na, ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma. Inhale, hold it, squeeze the anus, sexual organs, pull the belly and drop the chin. Tongue rolled up, eyes rolled up to the center of the eyebrows, tongue to the roof of the mouth. Inhale a bit more. Exhale, release the position. Just stay quiet for a minute. Still. Inhale deeply. Exhale. And then when you're ready, you can come back. How did that sound? How did that feel? So, this meditation apparently brings mental balance, and through this practice, the mind awakens to the infinite capacity of the soul for sacrifice, service, creation. Of course, don't take my word for it. Don't take this guy's word for it. Experience it yourself. Do it for 1 minute each. And then try doing it the next day. Try doing it for 7 days and see. Because when I didn't think of Kundalini yoga in the beginning, and I said, "What is this baloney?" Whatever. And I saw this lady doing it, and I said, "Okay, maybe I'll try." So I tried it, and I thought, when you're actually doing it, it doesn't look like it's a lot. It's like, what is this? And then you find out when you look back on your day, you're like, "Oh, okay, I didn't realize that I acted. I had actually a good day today. I wasn't reactive. I nothing. I didn't blow my top. I didn't. I wasn't particularly stressed." And you find out that you were fine, actually. You had a nice stress-free day. And for me, that was how it was. It doesn't look like you're doing much, you're doing this, you're focusing your body and all that. But when you look back on the days and also when you look back on the period, you realize that actually it did something. I just wasn't realizing that was happening. So don't take my word for it. Experience it yourself. Because really, that's how life is, right? You only learn when you actually experience. You don't read about, even if you read about something, it doesn't mean you're knowledgeable. You need to experience something. If it's until it becomes really knowledge because you learn something from it. So that's my um, invitation to you. Um, try it, and see what comes up. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, or feel free to contact me if you want to just chat about it or something. So it was fun sharing this with you, this type of meditation, and all of these lessons that I just shared with you, that I learned in the span of since when I started doing leadership, when I was reading about leadership. It really changed my life. All of these lessons that I learned from the books that I read, when I learned about leadership, I was reading about it. Then that's why I became a coach, because, if I want to help others, I need to help myself first. And I find it really, I really enjoyed that, especially that quote. If most of the time you don't feel like you can control a lot of things, but actually what you can control is you. And once you just start there, your whole world changes, your whole view changes, your worldview changes. And when your worldview changes, you find out, oh, I can actually do this. And before I didn't because I was too afraid. So my invitation to you is just know yourself, because the only place who can be you is you. And it's meant for you, and you're meant to be you. So take advantage, live life with joy, not in fear. And like I said in the beginning, we're not meant to live life sleepwalking. We're meant to be mindful of every moment and everything, and also intentional to really what matters to us, and not what matters to my daughter, my husband, my mother, but to me. So, and it's only when we take the time to notice it, then you know, then we act, because it's for us, really, because nobody else can live our lives but us. So thanks very much. I will stop sharing now. Oh, thank you very much. Um, is there anybody who wants to? And I apologize for the noise. My cleaning lady's here. So if you have a question, feel free to shoot me an email, or ask here if you want. So thank you, everybody. Hi, Joris. Nice to see you again. Thanks, everybody.